rock and roll into this, shall we? Hello and welcome to the Smells Like Teen Angst podcast. I'm Sarah, and I am joined by my typical, normal, what's the less rude way of saying that? My friends.
Your two best friends?
My two best friends to talk about the sequel to Fourth Wing, Iron Flame. I almost forgot the title for a second. You catch that?
That was a dramatic ass pause.
That's what editing is for.
Book 2 of the Empyrean series.
Take two. Do it again.
Book 2 of the Empyrean series, Iron Flame.
Nailed it. Keiki.
Look at us.
Do you want to introduce yourselves real quick? So for those that aren't as familiar with your voices as I am.
Hi,
everybody.
Keiki.
And I'm Jordan.
I promise we're so good at this, you guys. We're so good at it. This book, overall, I saw a lot of complaints about it online, and I don't know what they're complaining about. I think this is actually a really good sequel. It wraps up everything we were worried about from the last book in like the first 6 chapters, and then we have moved on and everything moves forward.
I don't understand a lot of reader complaints, and I just say that in like a very blanketed way, because also I just finished Throne of Glass and people were like, I hate the main character. And I was like, I don't. What are you people talking about? The complaints, I don't get it. And one thing that I was thinking about, we started out as a Twilight Book Club, and I think looking back, Twilight you can say it's a very well-crafted series, because while a lot of New Moon kind of doesn't make sense, you're like, what are the Volturi and blah, 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 it has to set you up for the rest of the series.
Exactly. Because this is going to be, what, 5 books, right? It's what we're
Exactly. And this book, it sets you up for the rest of the series.
And maybe like New Moon, this will be the best season because it's getting a TV show. Because we just did the Twilight Marathon. If you don't follow us on TikTok, and we were just talking about how New Moon is our least favorite book, but it's one of the best adaptations. Eclipse is mine and Kiki's favorite book. Jordan, I don't want to speak for you on that, but it's possibly the worst movie.
I think I agree that Eclipse is probably my favorite book, but the worst movie.
Yeah. So who knows? We'll see. So diving into this, first of all, I got to say, I made sure after the last one, I was like, you got to take more detailed notes so we know what you're talking about when we come back to talk about this, because this book is so long. It's way longer than the last one. And so as I'm going over my notes, I'm like, nope, still don't know what I'm talking about. So ladies, I'm gonna lean on you.
Well,
I'm more detailed, but more vague at the same time. I don't know what happened.
Well, I'm sorry that you did not take good notes, but I had to read this book twice because it took Sarah months to finish it.
I do the audiobook. I'm sorry. Otherwise, I would literally fall asleep after 2 pages and I would never get to it.
I am suffering. I have been in hell because I finished this book like 7 days after it came out.
I know, Jordan.
Like, no one besides one of my coworkers was on the same pace as me.
Jordan, you sped through it, and I am very proud of you.
Yeah, I'm not a good reader. I will literally fall asleep after 3 pages. Reading puts my brain to sleep. So I have to do the audiobooks, and I read them when I drive.
That's the funny part to me, is that I am the opposite. I can read all day long. Audiobooks, out like a light, baby.
It's a little bedtime story for you.
Exactly.
It depends on the reader. And the person who reads this book does a really good job. So I like it. So let's dive into this thing. So at the end of Iron Flame, we learn that Violet's brother is alive.
Not Iron Flame, the end of Fourth Wing.
Sorry, Fourth Wing. At the end of Fourth Wing, thank you, Keiki, that we learned that Violet's brother is alive, which we were like, what? Leaning against the door. And we're like, they can't just end that shit like that. And they do. We learned that like Xaden is running a rebel alliance. Like he's in Star Wars.
A revolution, baby.
A revolution, baby. And so Violet is like almost dies, saving everyone from the venom and the things that have other names with her power.
The Wyvern. You can't be out here just like making up shit, girl.
Girl, I make up things. Doesn't matter. I could have read it 20 times. I will still never know things. I will never know names.
This book has enough of its own vocabulary. I'm going to need you to stick to it before I start getting confused.
Look, I'm going to do my best. But I make no promises. So I appreciate this book literally like picks up, explains what happened, and in a way that I think is really easily digestible for the reader. And they do it in 5 chapters. Like it's so fast.
I also think it's a really good recap. Like, if you did not read the books back to back, if you had read Fourth Wing a while ago, I feel like Iron Flame does a very good job of being like, on our last episode, this is what happened, without being boring about it. That way you can dive back into the world and then keep going.
Absolutely.
Yeah. She's definitely like reliving everything that happened at the end of that book in those first 5 chapters over and over again. So it's like, we know what happened. We're not going to forget Liam died. We're not going to forget that girl's got some wyvern fighting PTSD. We know Brennan's alive. All of that. We know there's a revolution. All of that. It's all happening. It's all fresh in the mind.
Yeah.
And thrown right back at us. So I think it hopped in exactly where it needed to. I hate when books are like 5 years later. Like, you know, I'm just like,
10 years later.
I want to know what happened the moment after the moment.
And I love that we do get a lot of some more Brendan backstory too. And also she and him have such like sibling moments where they're just going to talk about everything except for the giant elephant in the room about him being dead for the last 10 years, you know?
I think that's one of my favorite things in the entire book, the relationship between the Sorrengail siblings, because it's very much, if Rebecca Yarros does not have siblings of herself, she has paid a lot of attention to her children because the sibling relationships were spot on. And that is such a hard thing to do in writing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I like how they explained that Brennan, they kind of hint at it about Brennan being gay, because we get more about the story of Taryn's last rider who like sacrifices himself for him to keep him alive. And it really hints at them being lovers. And I would really hope that they expand on that later, because they really just kind of like brush past it.
Yeah, there's like one little question like, do you have any family? Do you have anyone? And he's like, no. Like it's that.
And then to talk about the thing that I think people like, why people don't like Violet this book, and I can understand the frustration with her, but that doesn't mean I don't like her, is that she is really pointing a lot of her anger at Xaden, which I feel is very misplaced. Even like Taryn calls her out and she's like, what if you did know everything? Like, what were you even going to do with any of that information? I'm like, yeah, exactly, Taryn. Thank you for being the voice of reason in her anger chaos, where she can't point it because she's just filled with so much information and mad that she wasn't in on the secret. But she can't be in on the secret. She just can't. I'm sorry.
Taryn's just my favorite character of all time.
Taryn is amazing. I love Taryn. But I think this book, and it was hard for me in the beginning, is Violet is, you know, so intelligent, like trained to be a scribe, like just the girl's a genius. And, you know, she's killing it as a writer. I just looked up to her as like such a put together, mentally like sound human being. And she acted so 21 in this book. Like,
but
so
that's the
21.
point. She's so young. She's so young. And I think those of us who are a bit older are reading it and we are removed from that and we're forgetting how stupid you are when you're that young. To go back to Twilight, it's like when you think about, wait a minute, Edward Cullen never got a fully developed frontal lobe. That is why he acts like that.
100%. He's permanently 17.
Yeah.
So she's 21. And while she is so logical, love isn't logical. You know, when emotions run high, I understand why she's hurt, but she's also dating a spy and a rebel leader. And there's just she can't expect him to tell her everything about everything from the get. You have to earn that.
There's literally a quote, because of course I had to do my reread, that I wrote down, and he said, you didn't fall in love with the writer, but the leader of a revolution. And I'm like, yo, face value, girl. Remove yourself from it. This isn't just like a little school work relationship. This is like you and someone who is trying to change the world. Either you get in line or you stay where you're at, you know? You have to meet him somewhere.
Exactly.
And it's for her own protection. And I think that's why like all the hate that was swirling around it really annoyed me, because I'm like, I feel like this is love. When you love people, you protect them from the hard things.
Yeah. And also like
really trying.
He was, when it came to like her brother, Xaden was following his wishes. Don't tell my family. So like he's loyal to Brennan. He's not loyal to her yet. And he's also like protecting everything he's doing with this rebellion. They've only been dating for a year, like seriously dating 4 months.
And we learn
that. We know what's happening and we know why it's happening. She just feels hurt and she feels left out. And people don't like FOMO. It is what it is.
No, but she also needs to put herself in Xaden's shoes because beyond that, we continue to find out throughout this book, he hasn't ever really had people he can trust. So, like, why would he tell her anything? He doesn't know what that feels like. He hasn't had healthy relationships modeled for him. He don't know what he's doing.
Exactly. And to like show kind of what a great person he is, I love this, is in order to give Violet space for her to process everything, because it's not just him being a rebellion leader, her brother's alive. There's so much going on. So he's just like taking care of Andarna and making sure that she's okay, while like her taking care of her little baby dragon. And I just think that's really kind.
Yeah, I don't know. I saw, especially my reread, a lot of love and care coming from Xaden. Like, he's the number one book boyfriend for me now. Like,
Facts.
He really is, though.
He really is.
Hands
They better not
down.
fuck up this casting, guys. I'm so serious.
nobody can touch Zaddy Xaden. Like, he's such a good guy. I'm sorry. Like, and he's the type of guy, it's not like, I'll watch the world burn for you. It's like, I will burn down the world for you. Like, it's very much like, you are the center of his universe, girl. If you don't want that, I'll take it. Like, you don't understand.
Let's talk a little bit about Andarna, because right now, after using her power to stop time, it forced Andarna to grow in a way that no one was expecting. She's no longer gold and shiny. She's now becoming like a teen dragon who's about to go into like the eternal slumber for a while. And there's just so much changing. And even like Taryn is confused. And I kind of love that even the dragons are confused.
Can I tell you that I just wish that human puberty happened like dragon puberty and you just had to take a long nap. Just
Right?
take that long nap, girl.
I love
Oh my
that.
God.
I would love that
Just
too.
skip over it. Like, skip over the uglies and just pop out like, hey, we did the hard part.
I love that. They also have to decide if they're going to go back to Basgiath or not. Because, at this point, they all believe they were sent to die. They think that Violet's mother knew about it. We think that Dane's father knew about it. Like, we think Dane knew about it. That's where we're at, that this whole crew was sent to get murked. And so they're like, do we, like, go back to school and act like nothing happened? Or do we stay away? And the fact that they decide to go back to school is what I think needed to happen to progress this story. Because otherwise,
Yes.
nothing would have happened.
I just want to say off top that I owe General Sorrengail an apology because at the end of the last book, I was like, she's in on it. She did this. She's a traitor. She's terrible. Boy, was I wrong.
I know.
I know. I felt real bad for her too. She kind of becomes an MVP of this entire book, which I think is really great. So when they're back at Basgiath, and this is like chapter 7, back at Basgiath, I think it's kind of funny because now we've kind of hit Harry Potter territory again. They're now second years. And I think them sending Xaden away to be somewhere, I think was the best choice as well, because Violet can't grow as a writer, as a person, if they're still there just constantly fighting. So the choice that Rebecca makes to send him off is great and smart writing.
Oh, yeah. And it's definitely space for her, not only away from the relationship, but space for her to figure out how she grows within the academy, within who she is, with this big umbrella of this crazy signet over her head and like one of the most powerful dragons. Like, how does Violet stand out amongst the rest? And then also, how does she deal with her PTSD? She held her friend while he died. Not just her friend, but her bodyguard of the last year, basically.
Her bestie.
Like,
Bestie Liam. I was in love with Liam. Liam's a
I
great
was in
character.
love with Liam.
Liam's, can I tell you the Instagram edits of Liam where they're like, this is what Liam's Instagram feed would look like, or this is what Liam's story would look like, crush me every time I see them.
Oh my God.
I love him so much.
But they gave us Riddick.
Oh my God. Adorable angel baby.
I love Riddick.
I love him
Riddick
so
is
much.
like, I was like, please don't make this character so good and kill him. She didn't. Thank God.
Thank
I
God.
love this little angel baby. He's again like so doofy, so bro.
Yeah.
Riddick
also has
reminds
his,
me
like,
of,
Moments of just genius. He's amazing.
he reminds me, I can't think of the actor's name and I'm not going to Google it right now, but the guy who was in National Treasure, like the sidekick,
Yes.
that is who Riddick, like, please find a young version of that guy and have that actor play Riddick in the series.
I just love them. They're just like these like doo-woppy weirdo little dude. Like they're just always broing out, having a good time, being weirdos. I'm obsessed with them. We also get a new big bad with Varish, who is like the new school teacher, since there's that whole confrontation with Violet and Xaden and her mom and Dane and Dane's dad. That's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I literally, this is one of those things. This entire scene is incredible. Like I would remember it. Like I would remember
No, it's
exactly what happened.
Colonel Atos is there, and then Varish comes in, and Varish is like every television show's big bad. Like he comes on screen, and the Imperial March is playing from Star Wars. Like you immediately know this guy is up to no effing good, and he's like trying to pull rank. And General Sorrengail is like, "I am the general. Calm down."
He's like, what's the Harry Potter villain, the lady in pink that makes him carve into himself?
Yes,
Yes.
It's like Umbridge energy.
Umbridge. He's an Umbridge. He's very much there like, we need to tighten up this ship and get you writers together, you know?
Yeah, it's like, okay. But the whole thing with they're sending Xaden off to the front lines, but because their dragons can't be apart for more than a certain amount of time, Rebecca's still able to like throw them back together into the drama because Violet's still yelling at him about not telling him everything, and Xaden's just like, I've never lied to you. Ask me anything, and I'll always tell you. I'm like, girl, because you are not entitled to all the information that he has in his body.
Yeah.
And Dane is like constantly apologizing too. And I'm just like, bro, he's still dead to me. By the end of this book, I still don't care. He is still dead to me.
I like, look, he's not dead to me anymore. Okay. We'll talk about it when we get there. But
Yeah.
I'll tell you what made me like not completely turn over, but start leaning back into Buddy, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Buddy. So let's dive into second year. Second year is the survival course, aka RSC.
Well, I mean, we still should mention Conscription Day.
All right, Conscription Day. So Liam's sister is there. Violet
Sloane.
to help her. Yes, Violet to help Sloane. Sloane is immediately pissed at Violet because she blames Violet for Liam's death. So drama. And then Varish's dragon decides he's just going to burn up a bunch of kids. And Taryn is like, you tell him to stop that or I will take his other eye out.
Oh my God. That scene.
That was great. Also, let's not forget, we get the introduction of Cam.
Yeah, Cam.
Or Auric Greycastle, who is actually King Tari's third son. So we do have a prince who is sneaking into the Rider's Quadrant.
Mm-hmm.
And he ends up being an ally in the end. This is a big Conscription Day. We've got some friends and foes crossing that parapet.
Some new characters on Parapet Day. That's what I wrote.
One reason why I think that this is going to be such an entertaining series, because it's not just about the Violet Xaden love story. You get so much information, particularly in this book, about the world that we live in and the war that's going on, and like all of the side characters are so interesting, and they have like time and space to breathe. I'm going to keep making Twilight comparisons tonight, I guess. It's not like when the Cullen family has the most interesting backstories and you don't get that at all because all you're doing is following this love triangle.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And Rhiannon even has a bigger story. She's now like the new squad leader. And you have Dane, who's now the new wing leader. So like there's a lot of things and a lot of pieces. And then we get Riddick and what's the other guy's name? The Doofies.
Oh my God. Thing 1 and Thing 2. I can't remember the other one's name, but they're
exactly. We get those guys. We get Cam. Like there's so much going on with all of these characters. And I think that's awesome. And you're talking about, Jordan, you were talking about Threshing and like Violet. I really love this through Violet's eyes and Rhiannon's eyes because they remember what it was like for them. And like, it's not a big deal. And they're trying to teach these first years what to do, what not to do, and not to freaking panic. And they still panic and cause like, you know, Varish's dragons like deuces and just like tries to char everyone. They're crazy. It's crazy. It's like even worse than the first time we saw it with through her eyes.
Oh, and that's another thing that they bring up too that becomes important later is that on this Conscription Day, even before Varish's dragon decides to burn a bunch of kids, there are fewer and fewer riders every year. And they're saying how like there aren't that many this year. People are like scared to join the quadrant because of the war, blah, blah, blah. So like, and I feel like this just really shows you how unhinged Varish is because they're already talking about how there aren't enough dragons who want to be ridden in the first book. Then they're saying how there are fewer and fewer riders coming through. And then he's like, I'm gonna just burn some of them.
Right. Yeah, and then his dragon kills half of them.
On day one.
On day one. And then Taryn, I'm like, and Taryn is living. Like, when I wrote this, I was like, can't wait for the backstory that we actually do get later in the book between Taryn and Varish's dragon. And when he's got him by the throat and like talking about how I'll take your other eye. And I'm just like, this is so good. And why Taryn is one of my favorite characters, if not my favorite character in the series.
My God,
They
I
better get
adore
a great
Taryn.
voice actor. It better be like Keith David or somebody.
Right? Oh my God. Exactly. So good. And then we get to see over the next few chapters, like Violet watching these first years and getting that secondhand experience and their reactions. And she's like, oh, I guess like it wasn't that bad. And I have grown and I have gained experience. And then as she's going through these classes, she's learning, oh, I guess I do have to lie to protect people in my life. I guess it's like lying to protect people isn't all that bad, depending on what it's about. And she's just going on this whole like learning journey while at
Well,
school.
yeah, because Barish and Atos keep sending people to try and kill her.
Which
That
like
was
that is
crazy.
my next thing, a whole person, Nadine dies because of Violet. And let's get it. People don't like Violet. They make fun of Violet constantly, but they're growing to develop like a love for her and her smart aleck, smart ass ways. So of course someone walks out and is like, "Where's Violet Sorrengail?" And of course Nadine's like, "Right here, dummy." And she gets her throat slit. Like Violet again messes up this first year, kills him, gets her ass beat, but stays on the sidelines to not look weak. I just think it's crazy that there is still this giant X on her back, even in the second year, especially after what happened at Athbean. She's gonna go. We're gonna go through this whole book knowing that it's not over. Like it's not like she's summited to you are no longer the person of target or the person of interest. Like you will always be number one on that hit list, girl.
All because of her mom, man. Like all because of what her mom did, which is crazy. Anywho, I think I texted you guys about this moment because like it's been a week and Xaden comes back and they're catching up. And like then we learn that Xaden's like writing her letters in order for them to connect again. And I'm just like, for a man to write letters.
We had a long text conversation about this. Gentlemen, if you happen to be listening, write your girls some letters, okay? Girls want letters.
Girls want letters.
My gosh.
It's true though. Please.
It's so lovely and heartfelt. And sometimes it's hard to say how you feel or share really difficult things about your life or yourself to someone face to face. And writing it in a way is more intimate than if they were to tell you.
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
Absolutely. And I think in this we learn how much Xaden is like actually in this like I love you Olympics for her, A lot of complaints I saw online were like, it's so childish. He's withholding affection because he wants her to say, I love you. Like it's so manipulative. And it's like this. And I'm like, I don't think it's manipulative at all. I think he has very much so crossed into a whole new space and threshold after he thought he was going to lose her, where he's like, whoa, I love you. I don't just like you. I'm not just protecting your life. I love you. I will burn the world down for you. But if you don't love me and if you can't love me back or say you love me, then we're not going to do this because I can't just throw away the emotion from it anymore. I love you. Like that's what
Thank
it is.
you. This was a man taking a stand. He's not here for a situationship.
Absolutely. And I think what people forget is just because you set a boundary doesn't mean the other person isn't allowed to.
Mm-hmm.
Like she wants information and he's like, okay, well, here's what I need from you in order for me to feel comfortable doing that. And instead she feels like he's like fighting her on it where he's like, no, this is my boundary. That's your boundary. And that's how compromise is made. And people forget compromise is important in relationships.
Very much so. And I think his maturity is showing. Like he's in this to win this, He knows deep down there is still something to be had there. And he's not going to let it fall apart because it's something he actually enjoys now. Like when we get these letters from Xaden, I kind of feel like through reading them, I'm like, oh my God, he's never like been loved, Like he hasn't had people who like care about him. The way they care about him is by separating themselves from him. His dad's like, you stay here while I go off to, you know, fight this war.
Mhm.
Um, and this is like Xaden's first experience with that type of love, and he just wants to make sure it's mutual, you know?
I love the
So then we
usage.
find out,
Oh, go
oh,
ahead.
sorry, I was
Go
gonna
ahead,
say, we
Jordan.
find out that Jasenia is the MVP because and she becomes a much bigger character in this book, like a much bigger character, and I think it's really rewarding because we know from book one, like she's the one recording this. She's the one writing everything down, and you're like, well, what does she have to do with it? And in this book, she becomes a big deal. We find out that a student is killed because he requested a book about the border attack. So then Jasenia just conveniently doesn't write down any of the books that Violet asked for.
Yeah, because that could happen to her, and it's they're all sort of putting the pieces together, and it shows how smart the younger generation is and how much the older generation looks down on them and thinks that they could just get by with all these things. That happens in our world too. It's like, oh, you're kids, you don't know anything. Like, no, we're not that dumb. Like, we're actually educated because you forced us to be educated, and now we're seeing what you're doing and we don't like it.
Yep.
And they're just like, well, dead. You know, they're like, don't keep looking in, dead. And you're like, well, okay, that's called fear. So we're gonna go with that.
And it also kind of gives us this, like, how do I explain this? When I looked at the different quadrants or like the different sectors you could be in the first book, where it's like, oh, you could be a scribe or you could be like a healer, infantry, or you have to cross a parapet to be a writer. I very
Right.
much saw being a writer kind of like being a Marine. Like, this is the hardest level because they get sent out first type of situation. And in reading this, I feel like it happens across the board in every single sector. They're trying to break people down to follow a certain pattern. And it's very much like our own world where we're like, oh, we're conditioned to believe this way. And if you step out of line, it could cost you your life in this world.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. It parallels really well, and it's told, and it's so interesting that this really dark story is also being told at the same time that they're just trying to learn how to dismount from their dragons or, flying wilds. And they're like, but also people are dying because they asked for a book.
Very true. But
You know?
also the way I imagine Dane coming in on his dragon and doing that like rolling dismount was so cool. It was very Harry
No,
Potter in
it
my
looks
head.
real cool in my head. It looks real cool in my
It looked
head.
real cool in my head. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh gosh, he's kind of cool. Like,
Same. I was like, well, okay, I want to learn how to do that.
yeah.
Whatever.
Like part of me, because again, I cast both Dane and Xaden as like the hottest men imaginable in my head.
For
That
sure.
like, even though I cannot stand Dane, I can't take away from the fact that he's just like damn attractive, you know? And he's gonna do some hot boy shit. And I'm gonna have to be like, okay, that's some real hot boy shit. But I still hate you, you know?
It's like Timothy Chalamet doing a barrel roll, and you're like, fuck that kid.
Um,
One of my favorite lines happens during this time period, and it's when Varys is asking to see Ed Darnett, and Violet fucking sasses the shit out of him, and she's like, dragons don't listen to humans.
it's so good because because they're all like the way they're doing this, like you were saying, Kiki, is very militaristic. Because like when their first big test comes, they're literally drugged and forced to like get what's it like a drink or get injected with something, and then they have no longer can talk with their dragons. They're having to like do all these things. So it's very disarming. It's very militaristic the way that they're doing this. And they're like running around and run into Barlow's dragon, which when that happened, I was like, oh shit, something bad is about to go down. And then it was wildly uneventful. And I was like, then why did this even happen?
Wait, I thought
Oh, you
someone
find
died.
out. You find out why it happens. Yeah, someone does
Yeah.
die.
But
But
in that moment, I was like,
the
okay, we just
body
ran.
count is so high in this book that someone dying is not really exciting. My next note is about Violet and Flam, so that's where I am.
Yeah, go for it. Because like we've kind of jumped around in my notes. So I'm trying to
Yeah.
figure out where we're at. Jordan, take it away.
So Violet poisons Sloane's opponent in sparring because she doesn't think Sloane is going to win. And Sloane's pissed about it. And Violet is basically like, you don't have to like me, but you can't die either. You're going to train with Imogen. Imogen trained me. Just fucking deal with it. And if you do it, I'll give you one of Liam's letters because I didn't burn them.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I love that. She's like, I was not like for you. And she does. And I thought that was very sweet to give her all those letters. And then, like, Sloane's like, well, fine, I guess I can't hate you anymore. God damn it. My brother really did like you and told me to like you.
That was a good moment. I like that Sloane isn't this trained super war hero like Liam was. You know, Liam and Xaden grew up together. They were with a family that trained them for this quadrant. They had skills coming in. Sloane doesn't know anything. She's just a bratty little princess girl who's like, I'm here because that's what all of us marked ones have to do. We have to be here.
I also
I
have this
really
note.
like how this series makes the characters work for it, Like, I hate the term Mary Sue. I think it's really overused, but it is very easy, particularly in these, like, fantasy novels, for people to just be instantly talented or, like, be able to wield magic and be so good at it. And I like how every character in this book struggles somewhere. There's some class that they're not good at, there's some skill that they don't possess, and they have to work for it.
And get help from each other. Rhiannon wouldn't have made it across the damn parapet if Violet did give her a boot, Like,
100%.
and look at Rhea now. Like, it's all like, take the help where you can get it, learn from each other, grow.
Yeah. And speaking of
Storyline.
Rhiannon, I really did like the scene with Violet and Rhiannon where she finally opens up to her and tells her everything she feels comfortable talking about. Because Rhiannon has been, like, trying to, like, corner her, or she feels like their friendship is done in a way, and she's like, I don't know why you're not talking to me, I don't know why you're not sharing with me. And then finally Violet hits a moment where she's finally mostly honest with her, and I think it's a really lovely scene between two friends that was so necessary, because I like them as friends and I like Rhiannon a lot.
Yeah. And I
They
think
better not mess up the casting on Rhiannon.
I
that
know.
does come after Dane challenges Violet to a sparring match, though, right?
That's before. They have two conversations. This one is just more so like she's finally opened up her feelings, what happened like at the end of the last book, and talking about how she feels about losing Liam and how he like feels like he's haunting her, and like how she understands the school in a way now that no one else will ever understand, because she can't really say why quite yet. The other one that you're thinking of is like she's asking her about what happened with like her and Dane more specifically, and she's just like, I can't tell her because I don't know
Yeah.
who to trust and I don't want to put that on anyone. There's two different ones. And then right after that, Dane challenges Violet to a sparring match because Violet's still like, fuck you, bro. We aren't talking. You piece of shit. You like kept touching my face and reading my mind without my permission.
Yeah. The fact that we didn't just let that go made me so happy, because I'm sorry, that is a form of assault. Like, you
It
cannot
was
just,
such a violation.
it's such a violation. Like, he assaulted Violet, and you can't just let that go. And multiple times, it's wrong.
But the sparring match is also where he kind of starts to turn around, or where Yaros wants you to like start having more positive feelings for him, because he swears up and down during the sparring that he did not know about Ackbane.
I still don't know what to believe. Even at the end of this book, I still don't know what to believe, because I don't put it past him to just continue to lie so that he can save his friendship with her and either be like a spy for the other side because everyone has to trust him now. I don't know. I don't fully trust Dane. I don't know if I ever will.
Yeah.
Facts. That's what happens when you assault somebody.
Yeah, exactly. And then to kind of talk about Varish a little more because of what a heinous character he is. Like, because he is so what I think Keiki you brought up, he wants to see Andarna or maybe Jordan, and she was just like, dragons don't listen to people. So he's constantly asking for Andarna, and because her dragon needs to show up for training and blah blah blah. And eventually he forces her to use her power so much that she almost burns out again. It's very much Umbridge carving Harry Potter carving into himself. And it's just so dark. And of course, Taryn takes up for her again, and more great Taryn scenes of going to basically eat Varish. And no dragon cared. And like, he's like, I'm gonna eat him. Right? We're gonna eat him. It's gonna be great.
This is another one of my favorite lines, because I forget exactly how he phrases it, but he's like, I will swallow this man and let him rot to death in my belly. I won't even eat him completely.
I know. Like,
God
I was
bless.
like, that is beautiful. Like, I'm not even going to chew you. I'm just going to let you decay.
Yeah.
And then during like during all of this, it's becoming more and more clear that the facade is falling, and more people are finding out about the wyvern and the venom. And even Eric says that the reason that he like lied and came to the Rider's Quadrant is because he knows what's happening, and his father's not doing enough.
Yeah, that was another thing where we're like, okay, cool. Ark really is on their side. He's not just in this quadrant to be protected. Like, he's here because he knows what's up. We all need more friends.
And it's nice because now Violet feels like she has someone that she can talk to when there was no one else except for, the handful of people that were there with her. She's got like Xaden's friends. They're not even her friends. And they're all
They've
being
picked
picked
off
off
what,
one by one.
Yeah, they're all getting picked off. It's like one or two different writers who are at Athbeam are like now dead,
Yeah.
mysteriously died. There's targets on everyone's back who was there. So it's like, we gotta do something about this.
Mm-hmm. And then at this point we hit chapter 23 and we get into an interrogation with Violet and Varish, part of Varish being Varish. And then when Dane walked through the door for this interrogation, I literally screamed, "You are a piece of shit," in my car. If people could hear me, it's not road rage. It's me yelling at books. Like, I was like, why? Because apparently Varish is Dane's mentor, which we're just now learning 23 chapters deep. And like, I don't know why, but when I imagine him, like, I think he's got to be so creepy, right? Varish has to be kind of skeletal, skinny, white-haired, so he's like a weird little goblin. Is that like?
Oh, see, I went the opposite direction. I imagined somebody who was really tall and wide, like a disgusting old creepy Travis Kelce, like just like somebody very like large and intimidating.
Funny. I did not imagine him intimidating. I imagined him like Napoleon-esque, where he's just like small and mighty, just like this weird little creature whispering into Dane's ear to do bad things. Like, yeah.
I very much saw like the House of Dragons kid who's missing an eye.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's who I imagine. Someone
like a really like creepy Lucius Malfoy is like,
yeah,
where I went with it. That's funny. I love this because we imagined them so differently, which I think is so great. And then Dane finally grows a pair and does the best thing he's ever done, which is say no and walks out of the room.
He finally grew a pair.
That's what I wrote down because I'm a child.
No means no.
No means no. He's like, I've already
is sexy.
He's like, I've already done this. And then I skipped chapter 24 and I got to chapter 25, the viral chapter from TikTok.
Oh my God. So people like sped read this book and they kept posting these responses to chapter 25. So of course my first reading goal was like, I have to get to chapter 25. And when I did, I literally just slammed my book shut.
I again yelled, was like, are you freaking kidding me?
I was so pissed, but also got excited because I said, if we can bring back Jack, why can't we bring back Liam?
Because we have a zombie Jack Barlow. Like, could you imagine being those people sitting there and like your biggest enemy on the planet comes walking out looking like freaking Frankenstein's monster?
I cannot remember the last time I was disannoyed by a book character, right? And was so happy when they died. Like, I cannot think of a character I like less and cheered for more when they died. And then he had to come back.
Yeah.
I know. And I'm just like, this fucker, like, why?
And I felt bad for Nolan because the whole book they're talking about how Nolan's been busy and blah, blah, blah. And like, we like Nolan, okay? He has been a dope character. And you're like, why is this man so busy? Why are they working him to death? And you find out they're wasting this time to bring back Jack Barlow.
Jack Barlow, of all people. I'm like, this is dumb, and I hate it. And then, of course, on top of the Jack Barlow news, we learned that the outpost where Xaden, we didn't say this earlier, but where Xaden is stationed, her sister is there too. And that outpost is attacked. So then emotions are high from Jack being back. They learn Xaden and his dragon have been attacked. Don't know if anyone's alive or dead. Spoiler alert, everyone's fine. And so Violet can't control her emotions and Taryn can't control his emotions. So they're like raging together, flying out. And I really do enjoy how the dragons can control them a lot. And I think it's very fun.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And so like she gets there, everyone's fine. Well, they're having an argument, and I'm just like, I'm so ready for them to just like fuck it out finally, because they're not, and it's just like tensions are building. And then of course
And
we
then
meet
they
a-
do.
yeah, they do eventually. Um oh no, but of course
Sorry,
before that
Sierra.
happens, they have to meet a group of Griffin riders, which also has his ex-girlfriend in it. And her power is cool. She's Jasper, and she
She
can
Jasper.
heighten emotions and control emotions, which I think is really smart for someone like in battle. Or if you're just a jealous ex-girlfriend and just want to mess with the person your ex is with, which is what she does a lot.
Look, Yaros is a great writer because Kat also gets on my last goddamn nerve, and she's supposed
Oh
to.
my God. And I get so mad about these things because I never want to hate women in a book. Like, the last thing I want to do is be mad at another woman. But like, I was so sick of Kat in this book. I was just like, just kill the bitch. Like, I was just like brutally,
Yeah.
brutally, viscerally annoyed with her.
Oh,
But good
yeah.
writing. It riled us up. We feel for the person coming for our book boyfriend.
Yeah.
Xaden is ours, Violet, not just yours, ours.
Ours. I know. I guess we shouldn't skip over the locker room sex scene, Jordan. How did you feel about the locker room fuck it out sex scene? That's what one this one was, right?
That's the
I
shower sex. Yeah.
Okay, here's the deal. I feel like all of the sex scenes in this book were better than the last book, which is hard. Like it's hard to top the last book, but they were really great. But one that happened later that made me forget all the others because it's just so superior to everything that I've ever read. And
Gotta
I've
be the
read
one
a
Keiki
lot,
kept talking about.
but
Yeah.
That's
I was
good.
just like, get there.
Yeah, as someone who doesn't read a lot of books like this, I'm like, I'm super into it. I like it. I'm a little prudy, so like it's good enough for me. I don't need it to go further. I like all of them.
But also, like, was great that they had this like connection because I was getting sick of them and I feel like they really just needed to fuck it out for a
Mhm.
second. Like,
Kind of break
let's
that
bring
tension a
everybody
little
back
bit.
together.
Mhm.
And as a reward, Xaden takes Violet with him to drop the illegal weapons, meet the Griffins, they meet Serena, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
You know,
it's a reward. It's like a reward.
it's like a reward.
Like a reward.
and then Violet goes back to school and Varys is pissed again.
Yeah,
I don't know
basically.
what my note. I gotta just read this, and you guys tell me what I even was talking about. At the end of chapter 29, Violet is being searched by Varish and another power struggle of what he'd. Oh no, I remember what this. So they're carrying like an illegal dagger, and Rhiannon now has like her power can take stuff through the walls.
Oh yeah, this scene is so fucking
Yes.
cool. So Varys is like searching her when she gets back, and she like drops this dagger, and Rhiannon just pulls it through the wall. And so Violet like gets through with the search, and then Rhiannon and Sawyer and Riddick pull Violet into
Sawyer,
Rhiannon's
you
room.
did it!
Yes, yes. It was somewhere in the back of my brain. They pull Violet into Rhiannon's room, and they're like, "Okay, what the fuck is this? And why did we save it? Why did we take it from you? Why did we keep you getting from trouble? Girl, talk."
And she finally feels it's time, and they become this like great little Scooby-Doo gang. And I'm so glad that they don't have the same reaction that she had, that they're all like, no, totally get it. Totally understand why you felt like you couldn't tell us, but I'm glad you can now. So let's like all work together and make magic happen.
This is also like my favorite part of the book when Riddick like turns into that character from from National Treasure because he's like, well, why don't we just read the journals? And everybody's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, wait, I know some shit you guys don't know. I know something you
I
don't know.
know.
Read the journals.
So good.
That's exactly what I had written down. And I was like, and then Riddick's like, yeah, just get the journals. And it's just like, I love that Riddick knows something because we treat him like he's so dumb, but he's really not. Like, he's here for a good time, not a long time. He's just here to fuck shit up.
He's here for a good time, not a long, hopefully a long time. I want them around. I love
I
them.
do, but Rebecca already taught us in the first book that she will make you fall in love with someone and then kill them.
Right.
So
No one is safe.
no
No
one
one
is
is
safe.
safe. I don't know if it matters, but there's like the moment now that assassins come for Violet because, like we said, everyone's getting picked off one by one, and it's Jack Barlow who saves her when she's thrown out the window, and he's like, "Now we're even." And I was like,
God,
"Okay,
I hate that kid.
God, I hate him."
I know.
I'm
I
like,
was like,
whatever.
look, You're not absolved of a fucking thing. I still hate you.
Yeah.
I don't know how Rebecca's gonna spin it where you're important because she had to bring you back.
No.
But clearly right now, I still hate you.
He's the worst. The worst.
So the worst. So then the
Um,
Scooby Gang decides they're going to steal one of the journals. Jacing is
yes.
like, it's in a vault in the library, but you have to have a royal bloodline to open the door. And then Arik is like, you need a what?
He's like, you need a me? I'm on the dollar. See this? Like,
Yeah, basically. He was
yeah.
like, and I'm here.
Yeah. And I kind of love this. Like, this whole adventure, I think, is really fun. They needed to get out. They needed to do something really fun together to move this story along. And I love that we kind of learned that Imogen is like a Jedi because she could just be like, no one was here. Just erasing short-term memory left and right, you know, like Men in Black. So I was like, oh, that's fun. Because like we didn't know everyone's power from the jump. So I love that we're like slowly learning them through Easter eggs and these adventures that they go on. And I think
because
like,
you have the one person who's like sending out decoys to like make it seem like they're all downstairs at the party.
yeah, I was like, that's so cool. And I like the way this is written, especially at the end, after they finally find like the journal, they're trying to get out because they only have a certain amount of time. I was freaking stressed. It was like I was listening to the Danger Zone and I could have sped down the freeway because it was done so well. It had my heart pumping.
I was literally stressed. Even, Xaden and Violet, when I finally think, it's the end, and he's like, all right, we split the journals. I'm out. I was like, my heart is still beating so fast. They barely made it out alive.
Right. And it ends on like a cliffhanger that, like, even though, like, you can just turn the page and see what happens. Like, I really love that she ended that chapter on a cliffhanger. So you didn't know if they got out or not. So you had to keep reading. Very smart. And then at the end of chapter 34, I had to do chapter numbers so like I could see where I was at. We learned that Nolan, the mender, is the mole and betraying Violet and turns her ass over to Varish again. Like, Varish is obsessed, bro. Like, leave her alone. And now he's like, well, you know all this. You've got the journals. And he's like, I'm going to torture you for information. And she's like, funny story about that, bro. You taught me how to get through this because of training of the ROTC. That's not what it is, but
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
This is one of my favorite parts where it's like, bro, you've given her the tools to not break. She's not gonna break, you idiot.
Yeah. So I was just like, okay. And also I love this is when Rebecca, like, I just love this, is that she brought Liam back because he's the person in Violet's brain that brings her comfort and helps her figure out the puzzles.
Well, yes, that, but also not to get too into tinfoil hat territory. I'm just gonna do it. If you're listening to this, it's already spoiled. So let's just go into spoiler territory. We found out later that people can have two signets.
Yeah.
Violet more than likely has two signets. Rebecca Yarros has already said that. She has said that Violet's second signet is part of this book. And I really think that her second signet is speaking to the dead. I do not think it was a hallucination. I think she was able to speak to Liam. I think that's why it's such a big deal that you burn people's belongings after they die. That way they're not tethered to this world anymore. But since she kept Liam letters, he was still tethered to this world. Specifically to Violet, she had the letters.
I like that. I honestly didn't think of that because she already had the second signet that burnt out the time stop. So in my head, I don't know why I didn't think she could have another one because she's still technically connected to Andarna, who is constantly changing.
Exactly.
She still has two dragons. She still has two dragons.
And this is one thing that, like, by the end of this book, I realized you cannot take anything that Rebecca Yarros does at face value. Nothing is at face value. There's no, like, dangling chads. If there is, it's going to come back and bite you in the ass. Like, everything is done with purpose.
Exactly. So this is the part of the book that I think really, like, once you hit this, the chaos and the roller coaster does not slow down. So interrogation happens, right? Torture, chaos. Xaden comes, Dane comes, and I love that they allow her to kill Varish herself instead of them doing it for her. It's such a powerful moment, and I'm like, yes. And then, of course, they like finally say, I love you. And then they exit into a bloodbath of chaos. So I'm just like, things are happening upstairs and downstairs in this dungeon.
we're forgetting to talk about the fact that Dane gets to be a hero. Dane is, forced to come in and use his power, and he uses his power. And we can see that Violet, through her conversations with Liam, finds her strength and also can control what he can see just a little bit. And even though she feels like she failed herself, we learn that actually Dane saw exactly what she wanted him to see. And he was like, oh shit, I'm on the wrong side. And he is the one who takes the first stab at Varish. And of course, Violet gets to finish him off, which perfect. Xaden rushes in, killing a line of people.
This is the point where if Xaden wasn't already our boyfriend, he absolutely became our boyfriend because he went to save his woman. He was like, I don't know what you got going on here, but I'm gonna find her.
Yeah, and we learned he devised like an epic plan. Like he literally took down all of Navarre to do this, Like
she went missing and he was like, burn it down.
Hunting Wyvern to take everyone out of Basgiath so he could sneak in and get his girl. And literally kills everyone in a line to get to her, to the fact where like, Sawyer's like, you didn't leave any for me? Like,
yeah. Like it's John's, that scene in Game of Thrones where Jon Snow is like covered in bodies and like hits his way out. Like it's very like to me.
And then while holding Violet up, allows her to push the dagger in and end this man's life.
This monster.
Hallelujah, amen.
And I also love like to do this. Like Xaden's not playing games anymore. Like he's like, we don't have time to pretend like none of this is happening out here. And we learned that he's been dropping dead wyvern bodies left and right at every outpost and village to be like, hey, guess what? This shit's real. It's not a fairy tale. Like really, really causing chaos for Violet's mother and their whole scheme of things. Who happens to have the antidote for her daughter for this whole interrogation thing? Which you're like, ma'am, why do you have that? Did you know?
I mean, she's the general. She legit was probably a part of them developing a serum like this,
For sure.
So of course she has the antidote. But we also do learn that she did not know that this was happening to Violet. And I think we always have a finger pointed at her back because we know her signet is controlling storms and just everything we think from the first book. You forced your daughter into the Rider's Quadrant. Like, we don't know her motivations. So even Violet can't even trust her mom to take the serum.
In this scene, we get a lot of information from her mother. And I put mother's clarity because her mom explains basically everything. Why she put her in the Rider's Quadrant and not a scribe. She did it to actually save her life because she knew her daughter was too smart and would figure this out as a scribe and not be willing to go along with the story because she's her father's daughter. And about how she called in the favor to Xaden because this is a big thing we learned is that Xaden was basically hired by her mother just to keep her alive, not to fall in love with her, just to be a bodyguard around, which is why we learn from the first book why he never went after her. Because she was always like, you're the one who should want to. And he's like, that's good. And so now we know why. And also all those scars on his back, Violet's mother put there. And it's a scar for every person he's taking like accountability for. So it's a lot of info. And Xaden didn't like turn on her mom either to be like, well, your mom's garbage. This is what happened. Like he's kept a lot of this stuff to like.
But she cuts off her mom when her mom is trying to explain that it's a Tyrish custom. Like I want to know why it's something that happens in Tyrandor when you're like, I take responsibility for someone's life. I'm going to cut myself because we now know why Xaden cut himself for Violet, after she almost died. So it's like, that's another person. He's like, that's on my back. Like that's it's actually on his front. It's on his heart. So that's even more beautiful. Yeah. But still, I'm like, Lilith might have been asked to do this by Xaden.
Yeah.
Because she tried to say it was a Tyrish like custom. So maybe Xaden was like, you have to mark me 107 times.
PT dubs. Just do this real quick.
Wasn't because I wanted to, but and then we learn another character we haven't talked about is Bodhi, who's Xaden's cousin. Another like rock'em sock'em character. We learned that he can like counter sickness, which I feel like should be a hidden power because that's like a big deal to me.
Yeah, I don't think people should know that you can do that.
Yeah.
But he's like a ditto.
Yeah. I'm like, secrets. That seems like secrets. And so part one of this book ends with basically giving all of the cadets a choice. Now that all this information is out in the open, as well as everyone else, villagers, whomever, whether they want to join the rebellion or if they like want to keep their heads in the sand, but it's coming for them anyway, and like, where do you want to stay here and protect Basgiath? Do you want to go back to Zayden's with them and like figure out a new plan? Like everyone's got choices to make. And so while they're kind of doing that, they all head back to Zayden's to see Brennan, and the battle is on and no one really knows what to do.
Yeah.
Part one.
That's where the youth shows. I feel like this is very much like you know what? I'm gonna blow shit up. This is my opportunity to blow shit up. And they blew shit up and they had zero plan.
Zero plan.
None whatsoever. Like they're literally mobbing out a riot of hundreds of dragons flying to Eurasia. Like just welcome. Welcome to the revolution. Like
you're like, okay. And then part two opens that with Violet having a dream about the leader. I call him the leader of the ring wraiths because like it's just where my brain goes. And like she just keeps having these nightmares, and we open up on another one of like him like, I'm gonna be with you. Blah, blah, blah. And then also to make her feel better, we get morning sex. Huzzah! Thanks, part two. And Darna, who has been asleep this whole time.
Wait, I wrote this down because I want to say it.
Yeah.
Morning sex initiated by Violet. Because don't wake me up for sex. But if I wake you up, that's fine.
Like, different.
Oh,
and Darna, who's been asleep for 184 years, finally wakes up. And I love that she's hungry because, like, me too, girl.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, you've been asleep for like a year, girl. I expect you to be starving. And we learn that Darna isn't growing how she's supposed to, according to the dragons and what they assume. Like they don't think she's ever gonna fly, which is so sad because she's got little baby wings. And part of me in this moment, when reading this part of the book, wrote down, part of me thinks that she's just even more special, and we're gonna learn more about it as the story goes along. And I was so ready in that moment, because I was like, I don't like, she'll never have a rider and she can't fly. I'm like, then what's the point of having her? No, I do not accept this.
No. Eventually she'll fly, but she has like a little baby wing, like a Nemo, like it's just not fully formed yet.
Yeah, she's gonna be going in circles because
it needs some PT.
Circle, stop it.
She just needs some physical therapy, guys. Get off of her. Get off my baby.
But then she's such a brat. Like she's such a teenager. It's ridiculous. But we'll get there. So like the next couple chapters are really just kind of filler to me because it's literally just like filling in cadets, making plans, for like chapters on chapters. I was like, got it. We're just going to skip ahead because I don't care.
This is one of my favorite parts. Mira arrives at Eurasia and she sees that Brennan was alive and she just punches him.
That was my next note. I was like, just skip these chapters because Mira's here to punch her brother in the face.
Which is
Siblings,
so relevant and the right reaction, because I'm not even kidding. As someone who has actual dead siblings, if my siblings were to pop up alive on site, beating everyone's ass, now you actually gonna die. Because no,
like, oh God.
You did not put me through that. You don't put people through that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care.
And so like their plan now is they're like, we need to lift the wards. We're going to try and translate these journals, lift the wards.
And raise the wards, lift the wards.
Difference.
No, lift sounds like getting rid of them.
Lift them, make them happen. And of course they try and they fail because otherwise we wouldn't have a book. And then Violet learns something really important about her signet for her, which I find this interesting, and I can't wait to see why that Rebecca chose to do this. Because at this point we thought it was just lightning, but it turns out her signet is actually pure power, but her body chooses to wield it as lightning.
Oh, girl.
Yes.
put that in the parking lot because I have a theory, but we can't talk about it right now. Let's just get to where we're going. Just put a pin in it. I promise.
Put a pin in it. You better remember because I won't. And so now they have to like go off and find this magical thing that will help them raise the wards. Okay, is that better for you?
Well, no, they successfully did not raise the wards, but
That's what
they
I said,
need
but they fail.
weapons. They fail, but they need weapons, so they need the luminary,
Mhm.
which Xaden has been headstrong about not going to Takaris to get the entire time. He's
Because
like,
Cat's
nah.
there.
Yeah, but he didn't say that to Violet. He didn't say that's the reason. He was
No.
just like, yeah,
Nope.
it's a no-go. It's just not gonna happen. Okay. It's
like,
not
but now
gonna
we have
fucking
to.
save.
So then Violet just goes. Violet
Yeah.
goes, and
She's
she
like,
finds out
fuck
the hard
this.
way.
I can't. And I wrote what we learn because this is a lot. It was a big info dump. Xaden's so against it because he and Kat weren't just like an ex-girlfriend. They were betrothed. And Xaden, because of Violet, broke it, which is huge. So he's got enemies. I got a lot of enemies.
Yeah.
You know,
You did not just quote Drake.
look,
God.
my brain turns things into song. Okay, if it's been in something, it's in here. So this is like this whole thing is crazy. So the king, I know we have like the party and whatever. I'm just like whatever. But the part with the king being like, I want to see her signet. I want to see what she can do. I want to see if she's worthy of my glowy magic rock is what I'm calling, like, you know. And he literally throws like her into a ring with a venom. Is like, kill it. What? And then
Yeah.
also, why is Taryn always so far away when she's like in so much danger? He is never
Right? He's never around.
Never
He's
around.
never right there. He's always a few minutes out.
5 minutes, 2 minutes. Sir, where are you? What are you doing? Taking a bath? Like taking a giant dump behind a mountain? I don't know what dragons are doing in their off time.
But it's very
It's
true.
fun though, because Amira and Brennan are there, and they all three of the siblings just get together and fight the way that siblings do.
Absolutely. But I mean, this happened too when she was getting thrown off of a tower and Jack Barlow had to save her. I'm like, Taryn, where are you? I'm just like, he's always so far. And so then after they defeat the venom, they're like, he's like, cool, so let's negotiate. And I'm just like, this guy is insane. He's like, good job. This is
Well, it
overboard.
wasn't just like, let's negotiate. Xaden, like, they defeat the Vin and she goes because she can feel Xaden. And
Yeah.
he's literally holding frickin' Takaris upside down with his shadows, about to kill homeboy. Like that was vivid in my head. Everyone's
imagery.
dragon shows up and is perched on this damn castle. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just like, this isn't even a negotiation at this point. It's like, you give me what I came for or die. Like,
I just love him and his angry shadow men.
I
so
just
good.
love his anger when it comes to Violet. Like, it's so visceral.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, and I will kill everyone over
Anyone,
this.
I burnt down a city. I dropped Wyvern. Like, don't.
Yeah.
I burnt it down without a plan. Like, this is where we're
And
at.
I will kill you in front of your entire court.
And
over
your
this
daughter.
girl.
Don't give two fucks. Like,
Don't care.
and then we do get to learn a little bit about the Griffin Rider School and how it's way tamer and so much easier. Like, no one dies. No one. Everyone's like, people die? What's happening over there?
Right? I
Like,
love how that one girl's like, wait a minute, what? Excuse me?
Yeah, because they were like, oh, you jump on a griffin? And if you miss, you just die? And they're like, no, you fall in the water and you swim back to shore with your tail between your legs. Like, what do you mean you die? You guys die? It's like, yeah, we die.
it's really funny to listen to them be like, this is crazy. What are you doing over there? No wonder there's like 5 of you. Like, everyone dies. Like, you just hang on and like, hopefully you don't fall. I think it's so funny. And
I
so
know,
I
but then
also
I
like that
just,
they're,
am I the only person who sees Buckbeak?
I do. That's exactly what I
Oh,
am
no, that's
doing.
what I see.
Okay.
For sure.
100%. That's exactly what I see. And so I love though that the dragon riders look down upon them because it's not as hard. And they're like, no, we need to learn if they've got it in them. And so they force them to go on this like trail, booby trap trail shit on the way back to walk
Yeah.
through the mountains to see if the griffins can handle the altitude. I'm like, we can't just be nice. We can't just go
But
back. They got to
the
go through
fact
trial
that-
by fire.
The fact that
Oh, there's got to be a
Violet,
pissing
like,
contest.
that they have to go with them, I was like, well, that's whack. Like, why do they have to go with them? Just make them do it. Like,
Yeah.
is that me being bratty? Probably. But I was just like, ugh, this is unfair because like they can't even have their dragons on this little cliff trail. They're just like,
Especially if you're gonna shoot my baby Riddick, who gets 2 arrows into him, but he's like, I'm good, guys. I'm all right. I'm good. I'm good.
I know.
He's so stupid. I got 2 arrows in me, but I got this. I can go 4 more miles.
Bro.
I just thought that I'm good. Okay. And I do like that the Griffin Riders use runes, and that's not something the Dragon Riders do. So they have to actually learn to work together and learn how to do these things together. And I think that's another fun added element to make it special and different.
Yeah.
And then we have all this like Cat and Violet stuff because Cat's just mad about the betrothal. She doesn't even like her. So I just like don't care because I don't love like girl on girl hate all the time. Sometimes it's necessary, other times it's like just annoying. And I think the Cat and Violet
No,
thing is annoying.
this book was really great, but there were a lot of parts in part two that were kind of just setting things up to me, even more so than part one. And I'm like, okay, we get it. We get it. We get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like real itchy about that again, because true, I don't like the whole girl on girl drama. That shit makes me mad.
Especially if she's going to say, I didn't love him, then what's the
Yeah.
point?
Exactly. Like, girl, then get off my dick. Leave me alone. Like, it was literally one of the
Okay,
worst scenes for me.
it's the
And
worst,
then
but then it
also,
leads to the best sex scene I've ever read in a book. So let's just
it
go
does,
there,
but then
please and
also,
thank
like,
you.
we learn about Cat's power.
We already
And
know
this
about
is
her
one
power.
moment where, like, I was like, okay, I'm a little mad at Xaden just a tiny bit because we realized that, like, the dagger he gave her was intentional because it wards against fucking Cat's power. So in his head, the entire time, he knew these people would cross paths, didn't tell her the story, wanted her to keep that dagger on her, to keep that thing on her. And Cat's just freaking toying with Violet's emotions, bringing out all this evil in her. And I'm just like, oh, this is the worst.
But Violet
See,
knows
I
she's
felt like
doing
it was a just in case. I don't think that he was like, oh, I know this is going to happen. I think it
Same.
was more of a like, just in case.
Just
All right.
a precaution in the possibility. Also, people don't. More than one person has a signet. Like not everyone has just one, and no one ever gets it again. So it's to protect her from anyone who can use that kind of a signet.
That's true. I'm also like, is this the same dagger that like opened the door for them when they were in their first like interrogation thing? Because if it is, then like maybe he gave it to her because he knew it would always be a useful tool. Like,
For sure.
but
He doesn't do
still, I
things
was like,
without purpose.
but again, leads to one of the greatest sex scenes ever written in a book.
The throne. The
The
throne.
throne.
Kiki would not stop talking about this scene for days when I finally read it.
Yeah, because it was literally so amazing because he does it just for her. She now clues into the fact that, like, yo, he's like a king. He takes nothing for himself. This is purely just for her. He, like, puts his mind into her head as well. Like, so many different things
Ugh,
that give
so many different
Violet
things happening all at once.
all at once, that give Violet everything that she needs from him in this moment. So fucking perfect. And then he literally puts on her shoes for her at the end because her feet are too small to like be on the floor from the throne. I was just like, I love it. My house, my chair, my woman. Thank you, Xaden. Thank you, Daddy.
Jordan, do you have anything to add? You really liked this scene too.
No, you covered it, Kiki. Like it is just the perfect scene. It is emotional. It is sexual. It is everything you need.
Because, like I said, there's so many different ways to be intimate, and he gave her all of them in this scene and took nothing for himself. It was literally about her.
100%.
He exalted her on his throne. He wanted to think about her on his throne. That's amazing. Thanks. That's all she wrote. Good job, Rebecca.
And then it's slightly ruined because Dane has to roll up. And I just wrote, Dane might as well be dead because he can't apologize enough.
No, he gives one piece of information and he's like, if we raise the wards, then the Griffin Flyers lose their power. So we need to hold up as long as possible. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. And he helps her figure out that like the key to the wards is actually the dragons and not like them because she thought it was like the writers for the longest time. So I'm like, okay, little things.
And I feel like this made me, like I said, this was the point that I was like, oh, let's circle back. This is where I actually was like, all right, I don't hate Dane as much because him and Violet are working together on translating these journals. They're the ones who speak the like language. They used to write to each other in it. Like it's, it's them trying to rebuild that friendship. I'm like, okay, cool. We're kind of seeing Dane as like oh, I let it go. You chose Zayden. That's your man. But you still were my best friend. Let's just like be cool with each other. I'm glad that he can like keep
Yeah,
that
agreed.
boundary without being a dick
Yeah.
because I was worried that that could be something written into this story that would just go on forever,
Mm-hmm.
a triangle of sorts. And I don't want that. I always want it to be Violet and Zayden endgame.
Yeah, don't mess with it. Just let it happen. And because this is still school and they're learning runes and learning things, they're trying to get a day pass. So Violet, Sloane, and Kat and some others go into this cave, and that's where they run into Varys's dragon, who's like lying in wait for them. And this is when I got a little confused because I forgot in my head it was like if a rider dies, the dragon dies. I was like, that's not it. The dragon dies, the rider dies, right? It's the other way around.
Yes, exactly that.
So
Yeah.
I was like, wait, is Varys still alive? He can't be. But no, his dragon's just there trying to like exact revenge. And I think this is where we're talking about someone important dies, right? In this moment.
It's one of
No,
Kat's friends, right?
Or is it just Cat's
one of
friend?
I don't think anybody. I don't remember if a person dies right now. I know that Andarna shows
Yeah.
up and is like, "Get away from my girl."
Rah, rah, rah. So
Yeah.
like,
No, they kill someone. I wrote it down. So Solus, as soon as they come into the cave, he kills one of the other girls that came with them, Visalia. Then fucking Andarna rolls up and Violet protects Cat, which, ew. Just kidding. And
ew.
Andarna amazingly protects them and fucking kills Solus.
Throat. She's like, look, I may not be able to fly, but I can fuck shit up. Like,
Yeah. And then we learn, she becomes a dragon slayer, which is technically like a bad thing for dragons to kill other dragons, no black on black crime. And
that's why Taryn only took his eye and didn't kill him. Like,
yeah, that's why Taryn took Solus's eye and didn't kill homeboy. The elders agree not to punish her because she's still a baby.
She's a baby.
And
She's
she
a
saved
baby.
Violet. And I think, and like I said, Violet's power is power. So Violet clearly has something greater in this purpose where they're like, we can't even punish Andarna.
Exactly.
And Andarna must just be that. She's like the head of her own den, basically. So she can do what she wants.
She won't. And then this moves us into like Violet and Zayden finally fighting it out over her not asking about like the deal with her mother, because he's like, you now know, but you've asked me no questions because you're afraid of the answer. But then we get like the big reveal that Zayden has a second signet, and which pisses Violet off even more. I'm like, do you even know how like when he's like, and I put chapter 56. So just so you know, listeners, chapter 56. We learned that his second signet is that he can read people's intentions. And again, this is a moment where I think Violet goes off the handle for no reason. He can just feel.
Oh, this is the one time that I super didn't agree with her.
Like,
because we learn in book 1, if you have anything like associated even close to mind reading, they kill you on the spot.
They
kill you on the spot.
He's intrinsic, girl. Like he's a form of it, But like if anyone knew, and no one knows, not even you, like Sorrengail knows, that's it.
And Taryn didn't know, and he was livid.
Taryn didn't know.
He's so mad. He's like, excuse me? So they fighting. Him and Sorrengail are freaking fighting. But like,
Sorrengail's like, that's my rider. I couldn't tell you.
Yeah. And so like it's not like, for me, it's not the same as Dane, who can read your mind by touching you. Like the way he can do things is he can tell if you are like honest or not. You know what I mean? Like if she says I love you, he knows she means it.
He can read intentions.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not like he can manipulate her. That's not his power. That's not how this works. So her freaking out about not knowing that he has a second one, she's like, first of all, could die if it ever got out. Second of all, none your business until I make it your business, because that also puts her in danger. So
And I
Yeah.
feel like after this happens, like the rest of the book is just downhill. Like it is battle and just it all happens in a blur.
it really
It
does.
does.
Like the fight happens, they finally make up. You're like, we learn that Zayden's mother is still alive, which is like a big dun dun dun. Like you're like, we're putting
Yeah.
dun dun duns in this.
We're like, that's gonna circle back. We
Yeah.
learned that Violet's power is like attracted to the wyvern. You know, they use like the storm to like help her wield her lightning to take them down.
Yeah.
They raise the wards, but they're not great. You know,
It's like they don't have it perfect, but it's enough to get them up. Like
Mhm.
it's Jack Barlow kills his own dragon.
I
You're
know.
like, bro. And like now the wards are down. And then you learn like Jack has also turned Venom, but no one understands how it's happened, why it's happened,
Or when.
when
Or
it
when.
happened.
But they did say Jack's dragon's eyes were opaque. I wrote that down.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, they're not golden like the other dragons. So maybe
Yeah.
like that's a way that you can tell if a dragon's been turned venom or is being controlled. Like
Yeah. Like
maybe venom becoming venom is a way that riders can control their dragons versus the other way around.
it's so much. This big battle is happening. And when freaking Rhiannon jumps on Taryn to protect Violet, I was like, do not kill her. I was like, do not.
Yeah.
Repeat, Liam. I was going to be real upset, and that's not what happens. She's fine. And then
Sawyer
I love
loses a
like
leg.
Andarna can actually breathe fire, which they never thought she was going to be able to. So she's literally like bouncing around, murdering Venom, breathing fire. She's just like, what? And she's just got mad attitude. Like, what? No one thought I could do this. Look at me be awesome. And I just like, she's so funny to me. Her and Taryn during this whole thing of her being a teen is so funny to me. Battle ends, people die, but most of all,
They
all
raise
of her,
the wards.
yeah, they get the wards.
General Sorrengail. Well, that's a big deal about raising the wards because they realize that they translated it all the way wrong. It's
Mhm.
not riders, it's 7 types of dragons.
Yes,
They
learn
realize that
dragon thing.
Andarna is a special dragon. And this scene I love because when she wakes up from the dreamless sleep, she's black scales, blah, blah, blah. And as Violet starts putting together, like, wait a minute, Andarna, there's something different about her. And her and Andarna go to talk in private. And Andarna is like, I just mimicked having black scales because I love Taryn.
And I feel like they were always hinting at us that she was like iridescent or special in some way because like when Violet first approaches her when she gets bigger, she kind of blends into the grass a little bit. And Violet's like, that's weird. Why is she like blending into the grass? And then she can camouflage into the mountains. And it's like, she's good at hiding because it's a part of her breed. Like she's
Exactly.
iridescent. She's special. She's a shapeshifter. She's a chameleon. She's a 7th breed.
Yeah.
That bitch Andarna.
And then I wrote, it took her 650 years to hatch, and she heard everything that was going on and that she knew Violet was hers. And I was like, she waited 650 years for you, bitch. Be grateful.
I know.
It's so cute. I loved it. And then there's this really like sad and powerful moment that in order to mend the ward stone, because the ward stone gets like broken in all this chaos, is her mother uses Sloane to sacrifice herself so that the wards can go back up.
Yeah, we learned Sloane's a
Because
siphon.
Sloane's a siphon.
So
that was really
we have to
sad.
imbue. We learned earlier,
Mhm.
you have to imbue ward stones.
Yeah.
Got to put energy into them and then fire them.
Yeah.
And then ward happens.
And I love
It's a long process. And
It's a
General
long
Sorrengail's like,
process.
we don't have time for long processes. Here we
Yeah.
go.
And I just love that like, the excerpt on the next chapter is translated from like her mother to her husband, saying that when she falls, it would be to protect her children. And she knows she will have fulfilled her purpose. And that's exactly what she did. She used Sloane to drain her to protect her children. And I just thought that that was sad and beautiful at the same time.
A mother's love.
A mother's love. And then we get into the big cliffhanger reveal of the end. So while Violet was off fighting, Zayden was off like battling like the big bad daddy Venom, right? The one that's been in their dreams. He keeps saying like, you'll turn for love, you'll become a Venom, because apparently you can become one. Like there's like hints to it. You don't quite understand how, except for like you sacrifice part of your soul. I'm still very confused on it, but I'll get there.
You're taking, instead of using power that's like given to you, you're supposed to start draining the earth of power is what's happening. Instead of
Yeah.
like using your own resources, you're draining it from the earth.
And the more you do, the
Xaden
more
does
you
that, and he
turn,
turns.
basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, Xaden does that, and he turns Venom.
And he turns Venom, and like you learn, he wakes up to go confront Jack because Jack Barlow's still alive and in jail, and being like, there has to be a cure. And Jack's like, nah, there isn't one. Sorry about it, buddy.
So this is where I said to put a pin in it, because
Okay.
everybody's like, well, how are they going to cure Xaden, right? Part of being a Venom is that you feed off of power. I think that because Violet's signet is just pure power, in order to at least maybe not cure him, but to keep him from getting worse, he's just going to feed off of Violet directly.
Look at you. You're so smart. You're so smart.
Okay. I buy it. I'm buying it. That's a good sell.
And something
Rebecca, you taking notes,
said,
girl?
and something Rebecca said is like, you see it in our society all the time. People will sell their souls for power. So it's a matter of how much of his soul did he exchange? And once you start, how do you stop? And is it an addiction? So we're going to see a little bit of, I think, Xaden battling his inner power struggle to continue to protect Violet.
The end of this book devastated me.
Yeah. I was just like, we spent half of the book fighting. You give me 2 amazing sex scenes. I'm so happy that everyone's together and no one's died. And then you turn my Zaddy into a Venom.
I have not been this ruined and in shock by the end of a book. I don't know since when. Like Sarah J. Maas's book endings ruined me emotionally, but I'm never like, oh God, everything's terrible. This is one where I'm like, how do we come back from this? It's all terrible.
I know. I don't know. I need the 3rd book to come out like tomorrow, please and thank you.
Well, not tomorrow, because I'm going to reread again, because just like rewatching a season of Game of Thrones and rereading Fourth Wing, I was like, oh, she dropped hints. And rereading this book, I'm like, oh, she told us information that will circle back around,
Yeah.
Like,
I'm going to definitely
I'll be going back with the magnifying glass.
Fine tooth combing it for sure. 100%. And I'm like, it's on its way.
Well, ladies, Pepe Sylvia board somewhere in my house about Fourth Wing.
Like Charlie Day.
Yeah. Is there anything else you guys want to say about this book?
Yeah, that's what your theories in the comments, listeners.
Yes. Send us your theories. Send us your thoughts. Jordan's got some great ones. Do you agree with her? Do you disagree? What else you got out there? Because there's been a big online debate about his channeling and the purpose. If it was an accident or if it was to save. Like, I'm like, it was on purpose, guys. That's just how I feel. But it's great.
Yeah, right. And then is Violet's mama Venom? Was Violet's dad a Venom? I don't know. We don't know. But something's going on there.
Is Xaden's mama Venom?
Something's going on there.
Because where's his mama? She basically birthed him and left. Let's figure it out.
We'll have to figure it out.
Okay, good night, guys.
Good night. Until next time.
Morning. I don't know what you're listening to this.
Awesome. Thank you guys for listening. This was a long one, but thanks for sticking it in. Sticking it in. That was bad. Thanks for sticking it out.
Hello.
And we will see you or hear us on the next one.
We love you.
Bye.
Bye.